Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, you're in the right place. You wanted to come to hear student voice, you're in the right place. So glad you're here. Hey, Mayma. Shout out to girl Mayma from Sac City.
Hey,
See
y'all,
some
I'm
familiar?
excited.
I see some familiar faces. Susie Morikawa, hello, welcome. Tang, welcome. We'll get started in a few minutes. Hello, Paul Simpson Jones. Luz, we are so happy and excited to be part of this convening today. Sam, Samantha McCary, hey, welcome, welcome. VACR in the house.
Shout out to the DJ, Julie Grohl in the house.
Yes, DJ Grohl on the ones and twos. And it was spontaneous as well. All right, everybody, we have 1 minute left, so enjoy the music.
And just for kicks and giggles, while we wait for that 1 minute, let's use the chat box. Just tell us what you ate for breakfast. I'll start it off.
Yes, life cereal, hey.
Pop-Tart, breakfast of champions, Diego.
She said life cereal. Who said life cereal? I haven't heard life cereal in at least a decade. At least a decade. They still sell that?
Avocado toast. Hey,
yes. That was me, Diego. Martha. I love life cereal. Love it.
Yes. All right. So we are going to go ahead and get started. We have people actively joining us because this is a hot session. This is the one that is going to be the best of all. No, I'm just kidding. I'm biased actually. So I have a very short time that I have to speak. So I don't get very much time with y'all, and then I'm passing it to the young people. I do want to say thank you to Julie Grohl for helping behind the scenes. She's part of our team at ASAPconnect. I'm Julie Sesser at ASAPconnect as well. We're housed out of the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And I've also been your co-MC with Tiffany Gibson today. We also have Diego Arancibia in the house. Give him a shout out. He's part of our team at ASAPconnect. Wellington Smith is in the house. He forgot the fourth. He's the fourth. Wellington Smith, the fourth. He's also our growth coach for this Bold Youth Project. And let's see, Zoom etiquette. I mean, if you don't know, you haven't been in a pandemic for the last year and a half, but just in case, make sure to keep your mic on mute. We love to see your faces. It'll really help the students feel connected to you. We're making them turn on their cameras, so we would love for you to turn on your cameras, please, if you can, if you're able. Let's see, what else we got here? I want to give you just a tiny bit of context in terms of BOLD. What is BOLD? So we have two moderators today, and I'm going to pass the mic to them and let them introduce themselves, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background first. So January 2020, we were able to bring Youth Voice to the CDE, or California Department of Education, System of Support for Expanded Learning. That is the network of regional leaders who support after school, before school, and summer programs that are funded by state and federal grants across the state of California. Two of those young people, then high school seniors, now college freshmen, will be moderating our panel today. The experience back in January 2020 was so powerful for the state and regional leaders that the CDE, California Department of Education, Expanded Learning Division, is supporting the first of its kind statewide youth leadership cohort this year for this division. We call it BOLD, which stands for Building Our Leaders and Dreamers. This is a small, diverse group of young people from across the state, California, who are participating in expanded learning programs and are eager to build their leadership skills, I'm sure relationship skills too, and make an impact in their communities. 6 of our BOLD participants volunteered to speak with you all today to share their perspectives on how best to spend these ELO funds. Let me first invite our moderators to introduce themselves. I'm going to pass it to Amatina and Wes, and I'm actually going to spotlight them for you so that you have a chance to see them live and direct. Amatina, over to you.
Thank you so much, Julie. As she said, my name is Amatina Rossi. I'm a former student of West Campus High School from Sacramento Unified School District, and I'm currently a freshman at Stanford University. While I am undeclared, I do plan on majoring in computer science, which is largely thanks to the great opportunities in high school I had to explore the STEM fields. I was in this amazing summer internship program called Summer at City Hall, where I was able to intern in an IT department and learn more about computer science. And I also participated in the Create Club engineering competition for 3 years, where I learned more about the STEM fields. And so currently at Stanford, I am an officer at the Data and Mapping for Society student organization. But most importantly, I am a program assistant for the BOLD program, helping to uplift authentic youth voices in a similar way that I had the opportunity to do in high school, which is, again, largely thanks to my amazing mentor, Mr. Wellington Smith, who connected me with the amazing ASAPconnect team, including Julie Sesser, Julie Grohl, Diego, and a couple others on the team. And so as a program assistant, I really helped to mentor the young people in the program, helping to grow their strengths and abilities to act as representatives for the other young people in their communities, which you will see demonstrated later today in our amazing youth panel. One fun thing about me is that empathy is one of my top strengths. And so I hope you all will be able to channel your inner empathy as you listen today to the students speak about their struggles and their experiences and their solutions to how we can spend this funding. So with that, I will pass it off to my fellow program assistant, Wesley.
Awesome. Thanks, Almentina, and thank you everybody for being here. Hi, my name is Wesley Vega. I use the He, Him series, and I'm a first-year sociology major at UC Berkeley. I graduated also from West Campus High School last year in 2020 from Sacramento. And in high school, I was an officer for National Honor Society, and also I was a leader in a program called Men's Leadership Academy. I continued my leadership skills and in college and have already gotten to work with a lot of clubs and projects. I was actually admitted to Berkeley with African American Initiative Scholarship, and I've spoken to several faculty and donors about the importance of representing Black student voice at Cal. I also hold the title of Campus Climate Administrator in the ASUC Student Government Office in order to help retention and outreach to underrepresented students. My top strength is harmony, so I hope that we can all work together to create a safe and inclusive environment today. And overall, I'm just really excited to be here to support all my fellow students and learners and just to see such powerful youth voice being used. So I can't wait to see what's to come.
Awesome. Thanks, Wesley. These sound effects are killing me. So as Julie mentioned a little bit and gave some context for, today we're going to speak with some amazing BOLD leaders, high school students from across California, who are going to share their experiences during the pandemic and how educators can best support them as we move forward and transition back to in-person schooling. We really want to emphasize the importance of youth voice to decision making. You know, if programs and support systems are going to be made for the youth, why not tap into what the youth really want and need? And there's no better way of doing this than by speaking to young people and asking them. And so if you have any questions, you are free to put them in the chat, but there is no guarantee that we'll be able to answer all of them today because we do have, you know, a lot of already great questions that you're going to be able to take away so many amazing insights from. So just stay tuned for that. And we're going to pass it off to Wes, who's going to kick off some introductions from our amazing BOLD panelists today.
Awesome. Now that you guys know just a little bit more about what this workshop is, we're going to go ahead and hear from our amazing group of high schoolers, and they'll go ahead and introduce themselves. So let's go ahead and start out with Brianna.
Hi, my name is Brianna Garcia. I am a junior at Eagle Rock High School in Los Angeles. I use she, her pronouns. I am an active member within the BOLD program. I'm vice president of astronomy club. I'm photography editor for journalism. And I also participate in different programs like Seeds of Peace and Students Deserve, which focus on more social justice aspects. I chose to apply to this BOLD program because I felt that it curated a bunch of young people who wanted to make change and wanted to further themselves as leaders. And I found that as a very valuable thing. And so I admired that and applied. My future aspirations consist of being a photojournalist or possibly becoming a lawyer to help work with immigration cases and sexual assault cases, because I feel that those people need a voice and they need a platform. And I'd love to, help and assist in any way that I possibly can. So yes.
Thank you so much, Brianna. And next, we're going to pass it off to Estrella.
Hi, everyone. My name is Estrella Ortega. I use the she, her pronouns, and I am a senior at West Campus High School in Sacramento, California. I am currently the vice president of an LGBTQ plus club on campus called T Legion. And in T Legion, we strive to create a safe and welcoming community for the queer members on campus, while also trying to educate our queer and allies on LGBTQ plus history and rights, so that then there's a safer community on campus. I'm also involved in a youth-led media agency called Source Media under the SUSD School District, and we seek to educate our fellow young people on mental health as well as social injustices. We also find it's really important to find youth voice and make sure that the youth have their voices heard within our school district. So we hold monthly town hall meetings, and as well as we hold interviews with students, so that then they're able to give their perspective on certain topics and then relay them to the district. I chose to become a part of the BOLD youth cohort because I wanted to surround myself around other powerful and successful young people. And I think that as young people, we need to stick together and uplift each other so we're all successful. And I'm just really happy that I was able to learn a lot from all of these young panelists today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Estrella. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to Tamiko.
Hello, my name is Tamiko Young, and I am from Eagle Rock Junior Senior High School in Los Angeles, California. I'm in the 11th grade, and my pronouns are she, her. I am in the BOLD Leadership Program because I love to be a leader, and I love to create change in my community. I have been dancing since the age of 6 with the nonprofit organization Culture Shock Los Angeles, which brings hip-hop dance to the community and helps the community through arts. I am also the president and founder of a club called Girls Can Create that I started at my school last year, which brings together the young female creatives at school who want to expand their careers and look at different career opportunities. I am also the vice president of the Black Student Union at Eagle Rock Junior Senior High School, which was founded 2 years ago. And we have been addressing a lot of the social issues that have been going on this past year, and we've really been a tight-knit community for each other. My future plans are to major in sociology or business and continue to represent marginalized groups.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tamiko. We'll pass it off to Nicole next.
Hi, my name is Nicole Crawford. I am a senior at Indercombe High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm from Sacramento, California. My top strength is connectedness, and I think that really reflects why I actually chose to join the BOLD Youth cohort. A lot of the time at my school, I noticed that there were a lot of gaps in the equity that we were seeing in regards to the diversity we hold as a school, and then the representation of that in the classroom setting. And I think that being on the BOLD Youth cohort would allow us to reconstruct the lens from which we view education, but also build a stronger understanding between ourselves as students, but also in the entire educational atmosphere in our society. I think that this is also reflected on the scale of California, like as a whole. We do hold a lot of diversity, but I think that it's important to create a space that the youth have that holds a dialogue between students and teachers that hold everyone accountable to be socially aware and socially conscious. And I think that this was a great opportunity to do that. And for my future plans, I will be attending UCLA in the fall. I will be studying political science, and I was awarded the UBAA African American Legacy Scholarship to go there as well. So I'm really excited to just really create spaces of equity and build resource centers around the world, and also hopefully write a couple books and become a poet. So yeah, that is me.
Amazing work, Nicole. Thank you so much. Now let's go ahead and move on to Stephanie.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Jaramillo, and I currently attend Animal Ralph Bunch High School in Los Angeles, where I'm a junior. My pronouns are she and her, and my top strength is input, which I use in basketball club, music production, and I currently work in a program called WLCAC. I first decided to join BOLD to branch out of my community and to work on my anxiety when it comes to speaking to people that I'm not familiar with. And in the future, I hope to be more comfortable with public speaking so that I could express my opinions more clearly and confidently so that I could help others find their voice.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And finally, we'll hear from Yasmin.
Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here today. Like Amantina said, my name is Yasmin Dominguez. My pronouns are she and her. And a little bit of background about myself is that I'm president of a mental health awareness and suicide prevention club. I also partake in a civic engagement group that focuses on issues relevant to immigrants and people of color. I chose to apply to BOLD because I really value the aspects that it provides of self-growth and group collaboration. And in the future, I aspire to study political science as well and create my own organization that focuses on issues relevant to women of all races and identities. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Beautiful. That was amazing. Thank you so much to all of our BOLD panelists for introducing themselves. I personally just feel like so honored to help facilitate this panel of like such bright and passionate students. It's really an amazing thing we have here today. But again, that's not to say that they haven't struggled during these hard times like we all have. But I'm just, again, really excited to be here, especially with such amazing people. As you can see, I got my little breaking news virtual background because this is like history in the making. I mean, we're speaking with some super insightful young people. So we're going to get things kicked off. Like I was mentioning, it's been over a year since the pandemic hit, and after months of quarantine and economic struggles and loss and isolation, we're still very much feeling the effects today, despite seeing hope on the horizon with us transitioning to reopening schools in the fall. So let's just start off the panel by hearing from a few students about what they think has been the hardest for families during this time, as well as for students, and what would be the best and most helpful for them moving forward. So with that, I'll pass it off to Brianna.
Thank you, Amantina. What I believe to be the hardest for families this past year, and I know especially with my family, has been building relationships in childcare. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and a normal school day looks like APs, extracurriculars, and looking after my 3 siblings. And one of those siblings happens to be a toddler. So it's very hard in this climate to especially, figure out who's going to be watching what sibling when and who's going to be where at the house. And that's mainly begun to fall on me. So I think that the whole aspect of childcare as a whole has been extremely difficult and, kind of gather in that sense. As for relationships, I have a brother who is currently transitioning from 6th grade to 7th grade and will be at my school next year. And I constantly see him in these orientation Zoom meetings about, yay, class of 2027. But it's just not the same as an in-person orientation where you get to see the students, the teachers, the faculty, and your lockers, and see the books. And I know I really valued that as a student coming to middle school. So it's incredibly difficult, and he kind of feels lost, and I can see that. And honestly, I think what would be most beneficial is just more counseling positions and office hours that, help student, teacher, faculty, and peer, and, just kind of gather the sense of collectiveness and just understand one another and how there are difficulties at home, and that there's a lot that needs to be discussed, and that, we can all just in the end just come together counsel together and become one and just kind of persevere through this experience as a whole. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brianna. And I really appreciate you bringing up the point that, family dynamics are certainly changing and responsibilities are shifting. And that's really important to take note of. And so we're going to hear from Tomiko next, who is also a big sister and is going to talk about her experience with that, as well as other aspects.
Similar to Brianna, I've also had younger siblings that I've had to take care of. A lot of people have been saying that most parents have been the ones to kind of transition from that position of caretaker to teacher, but it's also been a lot of the siblings. And I think that watching my sister in second grade, she has two of the main challenges for her have been lack of focus and frustration with technology. She's a second grader and she doesn't really know that technology, the lack of speed for technology is not her fault, So I think that strategy 4 would definitely help with this because it gives high-speed technology to these students. And another challenge for families this past year has been income, and a lot of students have had to get jobs to provide for their families. And it's unfair when some of the staff and teachers have neglected that this has happened to a lot of families and that families have gone through so much this past year. So strategy 3 and 7 can help this by implementing free therapy for students and for educators to receive proper training for addressing the social and emotional needs of students.
Thank you so much, Tomiko. And I hope y'all heard her tying in those strategy areas. She's making your jobs easy. She's handing you the solutions. So again, there's certainly a theme of changing family dynamics here, and extra support is needed to support those young people who are having to take on extra responsibilities. And so Yasmin, I'd like to hear next about from your experience.
Yeah, so I think the hardest thing that I saw happen this year, or that I witnessed happen, was probably like students as young as 5. They were expected to handle class schedules, and parents and caregivers were expected to know what to do. And underprivileged people they didn't know how to handle things like Zoom or Google Hangouts. I also think that sometimes homework wasn't accomplished the way teachers expected. And so I think that there could have been a little bit more comprehension towards that. And I don't know, I think that this could have also caused like unnecessary stress, and this could have caused subsequently home violence, and that's definitely something we don't want. So a few of the solutions that I came up with was maybe offering at home tutors, and then not only so that it facilitates the children's education, but also provide some caregiver education for the caregivers, so that they know how to handle it and how that communicates better with teachers, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for that response and for really bringing attention to some of those factors that lead to stress and some ways that we can fix this. And also thank you everybody for those really insightful responses about the inequity in technology and also the need for counseling and therapy for our students as well. The pandemic really has affected each and every student and every one of us in a unique way. And while not only handling school and extracurriculars, this pandemic really has affected us in like a mental health way as well, not just physical health. So sometimes we're not able to see this on the surface level. So I think that's really important to ask our students as well is how has this pandemic affected your mental health in different ways, because it has affected everyone in their own unique way, and how have you managed it as well, and what do you think would be helpful for your classmates? So let's go ahead and start off with Nicole.
Yeah, so in regards to mental health in regards to the pandemic, I think it's really important to note for a lot of students of color that as students, this transition in regards to our education has been one that was challenging, not just because we are students that are going through a lot, especially like as seniors, things like that in high school, but also the fact that as an African American student, when we look at our socioeconomic and sociocultural climate of the last year and a lot of the things that have occurred, that definitely has a certain toll on a lot of students of color that I think needs to definitely be addressed in the classroom. I think that there also needs to be a kind of a heightened sense of um, cultural like sensitivity, but also accountability in the classrooms. And I think that that's one of the things that has helped in regards to managing my personal mental health when, for example, my broadcast media teacher did very thorough check-ins where she sent out surveys that were essentially asking us, very thoroughly how you feel, how do you feel about things that are happening personal to you and your experience as not only a student, but as an individual as well outside of the classroom. And I think that this is something that needs to be addressed a little bit more in our classrooms, just because I think that for students to do well educationally, it's really important that our socio-emotional health and academic needs, academic needs are balanced and being met during our educational experience. It's not necessarily beneficial if we are getting a lot of tutoring on our academic end, but then on the emotional end, on the end that deals with what's happening at home, things like that, we're not necessarily addressing that. And I also think that it creates a little bit of a disparity in how close we see in the vulnerability between student and teacher relationships as well. So I think that one of the strategies that would definitely help with this would be strategy 7, because the strategy is focused on supporting this socio-emotional health and creating training for trauma-informed practices as well, to create a little bit more empathy in our classroom environment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. And I really agree that it's important to have that balance in your life, but also for that accountability in the classroom to really check in on each student's mental health. Next, I would love to ask Brianna what method she uses and what support she sees as beneficial.
Thank you. Honestly, this pandemic has not been easy mentally health-wise for myself. I've gone through rigorous classes, family, different changes through that aspects. And it got to a point where I needed to be blunt with my family and say, I need therapy. And, it was long, and I've been in a space and my experiences have been, culturally stigmatized where, my culture believes that, therapy is crazy and you have your family and you should stick with your family. And so it was hard at first, but I knew for myself and for my well-being, I needed to seek out counseling. Another way that I managed was through my photography. I find it so centering, and it's amazing being behind a camera and being able to, capture things and feel like you're doing this artistic thing that, is all your own, and creating something that's all your own. And through journalism and out of school projects, I've been able to do that. And I just think that if we provide more resources that promote mental health, especially from a standpoint of cultural stigmas, where, that can hinder people from wanting to go and, seek out counseling and different things and wanting to try out different ways of meditation or centering themselves. I think that by giving those, things to students and giving those resources to students in classrooms and after school programs, I think that would be incredible, and it would create spaces where people all feel centered. And I think it would genuinely help my classmates and myself throughout this pandemic even more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brianna, for really talking about the arts and the importance of spreading all types of resources, because as I said, each student really is unique in the support that they need. So lastly, I would love to talk to Tomiko about her ideas on mental health and where she sees room for improvement.
Similar to Brianna, I have managed my mental health in this pandemic through art, sociability, and self-care. For art, I have been dancing since I was 6, and it's definitely been a change to not have all of my dance peers around me, but I have in my home been able to dance by myself and kind of realize that I am able to be artistic on my own as well. And another way I have applied art to my life in a pandemic is through my club Girls Can Create. I was able to bring a lot of young female creatives in one space and have guest speakers talk to them about their life in the pandemic as an artist and as an entrepreneur, and their careers that they have taken. Another aspect of my mental health has been sociability, and I've been able to stay social with my Black Student Union that I'm a part of, because with a lot of the social injustice that has happened over this past year, we have been able to talk to each other about how we're feeling and really get educated about the things that are happening in our world. And another one has to be self-care, because for me, when I look good, I feel good. And whether that means taking a shower in the morning rather than at night, or wearing an outfit that I'm proud of, it all just ties in to self-care. Two strategies we can use to fix this for other people would be strategy 3, which implements more after school programs and an emphasis on the arts especially. And strategy 4, which gives access to technology and high-speed internet for students.
Thank you so much, Tamiko. And thank you to Nicole, Brianna, and Tamiko for sharing the beautiful, creative, and unique ways that you are all managing your mental health. And I think it brings up a really important point that I'm really super glad that you all are able to find ways to care for your needs. But there are certainly students who are not able to meet those needs for themselves. And those needs may be ignored by other people. And so my next question is, are you all concerned that some students' needs will be overlooked in the coming year? And what are those needs? So I'll pass it off to Estrella.
Thank you, Tina. To answer your question, I do believe that I am concerned with English language learning students not receiving adequate support for the upcoming year. I personally am not an English language learning student, but I do have family members who are, which is why I feel it's extremely important to use my voice in this space in particular to amplify their experiences. And since I have seen firsthand what my family members have to go through, I see that they have to be a student at a very young age, as well as being a translator for their parents and teaching their parents on like American customs. And I think that it's also extremely important for us to realize that English language learning students have an extra barrier to pass, since they have to learn English on top of maintaining their cultural background and speaking their language within their families. And according to the Public Policy Institute of California, nearly 1.4 million students in California are English learners. Now, to put that into perspective, that is about a quarter of the student population in California who are learning 2 languages at the same time. And that to me is extremely difficult, because I am currently taking a Spanish class and I could never imagine having to juggle both languages inside of my head while speaking to one person. That seems very overwhelming to me. And so I think that a way that we can help minimize the stress for these English language learning students is by implementing strategy number 7. And strategy number 7 seeks to assist students with academic needs as well as social and emotional needs. Now, my concern with students not receiving adequate support, that can be helped by tightening communication with families. And to tighten the communication, we can translate the communication and announcements from schools from English to the language in which the families speak, so that then the students no longer have the pressure of having to relay all of their information from their parents to the school or vice versa. And this concern that I have with English language learning students actually directly correlates to what I want to do in the future by becoming an immigration lawyer. My passion is to help assist immigrants learning the ins and outs of American government, so they're able to be self-sufficient members of society.
Wow, thank you so much, Estrella, especially just for bringing light and voice to these often underrepresented communities. So that's really beautiful, especially hearing about your future passion. So let's hear next from Stephanie about which students' needs may be brushed under the rug this upcoming year.
I've seen that some students have already been overlooked before the pandemic, and I was worried about that continuing, because I've seen students fall behind to the extent of not even entering the classes at all as a result of losing motivation. So I believe that there should be more resources that will help students feel more motivated to participate in school. And this could be probably some clubs, so that they have something to look forward to in school, or adjusting to the way the students learn, so that everyone could feel more welcome and participating this can also continue when we go back to school so that students could get back into the routine of working and like every day and participating in an environment outside of their homes. Um, Not only that, but currently there's an issue that all the students from, starting from Head Start and high school are kind of falling behind, and we have to show people why school is important. Um, and that's important because people with backgrounds like mine, we don't really graduate, or it's not something that's really seen as normal. And I feel like if people from my community were to have the opportunity to branch out of the bubble that we live, where school is not the normal, then that would really help people out in my community.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for really helping us see that, what didn't work in the past is not going to work in the future. So finally, for this question, I'll pass it off to Nicole so we can get her perspective.
Yeah, so in regards to the concerns that I have for the next year, a lot of this focuses on, yes, the academic performance of students, but also the behavioral performance of students as well, and how that's handled outside of the classroom. I believe that a lot of the time, students' needs are overlooked, especially when the disproportionate rates of expulsion, like detention of students of color, leave less resources for those students to be able to excel in higher education. I think that we need to focus on having more restorative programs that create opportunities for students of all backgrounds to have more control and transparency in what their educational experience looks like. Every student has a different background in regards to what they are capable of handling at once. There are a lot of things that happen outside of school that do definitely affect the way in which students perform in school. I think that when we are talking about behavioral issues, because yes, definitely next year, I think that it is correct to anticipate that there's going to be a lot of catching up that needs to happen. There are a lot of learning gaps that we are seeing, especially right now, and I understand that there is frustration in regards to teachers that are trying their best to communicate whatever subject that they're teaching to students in a way that allows them to learn it well and learn it in a way that they're able to retain that information as well. But I think that when we are considering the social and emotional needs of students, it's important to take advantage of opportunities such as tutoring and learning programs that are being given to students for academic needs, but also taking advantage of that to focus on the mental health and emotional needs of students as well. And instead of having, for example, like detention and things like that, focusing that on rehabilitative work and therapy, things like that, small scale counseling that just allows students to have more of a voice, but that also allows students to kind of refocus and be able to close their learning gaps in a way that doesn't feel like it's penalizing them for things that may be outside of their control. I think that strategies 2 and 3 would be the most effective for this. Number 3 being integrated pupil supports, because it's important to have the same type of reliability and accountability that you have with your teachers to be socially aware. I think it's very important to have that with your peers, because you're learning to kind of interact with people for the first kind of times, especially when you get into high school, things like that. And then also strategy 2, that to accelerate progress to close learning gaps with tutoring and learning recovery programs. But I think that we should use the recovery programs to also help students that maybe have behavioral issues as well, to be able to focus on that and provide the necessary supports and equitable supports for everybody.
Wow, thank you so much, Nicole, for talking about the importance of equal opportunity, and also how each one of these issues that we're talking today really does disproportionately affect students of color, and then in return, really the need for restorative programs. Now, even with all of these struggles and hardships that our youth have faced during this pandemic, these all-stars all have found some sort of way to still be productive leaders in their respective communities, and really saw the positive also throughout all these devastating conditions. The pandemic really has brought light to so many issues that we wouldn't have accounted for without distance learning. So I would like to ask, what are some significant changes that happened during the pandemic that you think should be continued when in-person operations return back to normal? So let's go ahead and start with Yasmin.
So I'm really happy that this question was addressed because in the face of adversity, this pandemic, it did bring some things, like you said, to light. So I saw that internet access was provided to most students, and this ties back into equity. So rural areas, they typically they have to pay for they have to pay higher prices for internet access. So like maybe like nearly $100 per month. And while that may not seem a lot to some, it is for low income families. And then another thing I wanted to bring up was food distribution. Students had access to free lunch, proving it is accessible. And I really do think that we should, like, hunger shouldn't be a problem. And yeah, and then another thing, school violence rates were at an all-time low. So, and I feel like there should be a space or some type of measure to help keep kids safe, and because I know opening up might cause some severe anxiety, so we should definitely avoid that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for reminding us about the importance of equity among basic resources, some things that we usually take for granted, like food and technology, as well as also bringing awareness to something that people don't often think about, but also violence and how that has changed with the pandemic. So I'd love to hear from Stephanie to see what positive changes she's appreciated.
Like Yasmin mentioned earlier, there has been a lot more resources than ever before. In my community, there's information on food or food banks that have actually been really helpful to both people within and out of my community. Like, it's such a big deal that everyone gets in on it. Like, everyone calls everyone to come over. Not only that, there has been help with rent, electricity, phone, water, and even Wi-Fi bills or reduced Wi-Fi bills that have helped a lot of people stay on their feet and safe within their homes. With the school, I've noticed that the school has given students resources like mouses, school supplies, computer stands for those that don't have desks, even wellness bags to people that are currently suffering with their mental health, and a program that helps students to communicate to each other. There has also been things like City Hall where students could come in and talk about issues that they have been struggling with, and also for parents to come in and talk about any concerns that they've had with online learning.
Thank you so much, Stephanie and Yasmin, for really just helping us see that there is some light in this dark situation. And, you know, another bright light is that $4.6 billion of funding that we are getting for schools in California. I mean, that's just like an incomprehensible amount of money. I've never seen 4.6 billion of anything. So to help you visualize it, let's say each one of you individually said, okay, I'm going to save $4.6 billion, and I'm going to do that by saving $100 every day. In order to save up $4.6 billion, you would have to save $100 a day for 126,027 years. So not in your lifetime, not in your great grandchildren's lifetime. It would take thousands of generations to amass that much money. So with so much money, there is so much opportunity to make big decisions, important decisions. And so let's have the money conversation. I hope y'all are taking notes, because I'm going to ask panelists, if you had this money and you could choose how it was spent, where would you focus the funds? So let's hear first from Estrella, who I know places a really big emphasis on physical health and well-being.
I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for that image, Almentina, because $4.6 billion is a lot of money. I can't even begin to comprehend that. So that was a great visual. But for me personally, I think that we should focus the ELO funds on nutrition classes, as well as like mental health and physical classes. This can be upheld through strategy number 3. And strategy number 3 is meant to integrate pupil support, such as health programs, school meals, counseling, and etc. Currently, in California, there are 3.2 million students who receive school meals. And I think that all of these students should also learn about the importance of nutrition, since we all are eventually going to have to move on in adulting in our own lives. And I think sometimes, personally, I believe that I kind of neglect my own mental and physical health, which ends up catching up to us. But I think if we learn how to cope with our mental health, just like Nicole, Yasmin, and Brianna, and Stephanie, and Tamiko have all been saying, how important mental health is. And if we learn those skills of coping with ourselves and using mental health clearing activities such as meditation and going for walks, I think that'll be really beneficial for us to be able to continue on our daily lives. Not only should we implement mental health classes, but we should also implement nutrition classes. And nutrition classes, what they can look like are teaching students how to budget groceries, how to meal prep, as well as even a gardening club or some type of gardening component where students are able to see for firsthand where their food comes from and become more critical thinkers on what they're putting into their body and where the food is coming from. I think all of this really does eventually help us as students and just people in general realize how important our bodies are and how crucial we are as people. And we cannot function unless, and we cannot be productive members of society unless we function properly. And nutrition and your mental health are pretty much the only two ways where you can actually make a change and just live your life. And so nutrition and health classes, I feel like, are going to be extremely beneficial to all students.
Amazing. Thank you, Estrella. And I think, yeah, again, physical health, mental well-being isn't something that we always prioritize when talking about school and education, but, you know, students can't be expected to grow their knowledge if their minds, their body, their soul are struggling. So you make a great point with that. And then next up, I'd love to hear from Nicole about her views on where the funds should be spent.
All right, so yeah, like I said before, I think that in a state as diverse as California, it's important that we hold ourselves accountable to open a dialogue that appreciates the diversity that we hold, but also respects that diversity on an educational level. And I think that we should use this spending partially to reconstruct a lot of the Eurocentric curriculum that we see in our schooling, and also the way in which students are essentially taught about themselves and each other. I think that especially in the last year, for me personally, in my school experience, I've had to reflect upon a lot of my educational experience as a senior. And one of the key things that I've come to realize is that a lot of the history of what I learned and a lot of the educational resources that I've been given aren't necessarily things that reflect who I am as an individual. And I think that that has very, very detrimental effects to students, considering the fact that we are put into 13 years of mandatory education from ages 5 to 18. And these are some of the most key in developmental stages for any child's life, whether we're talking about by nature in regards to just the physical maturity of a child and the natural maturity of a child, but also the environmental maturity of children, as well as their awareness of the world around them and the people around them. And I think that it's very hard for students of color particularly to see themselves being successful and to see themselves with bright futures and things like that, when the prime examples of the people that we see being successful are white authority figures that don't necessarily reflect the history that we are told, especially when a lot of the time, the only time that we are willing to open that discussion in the classroom setting is when we're talking about things that don't necessarily reflect the strength that a lot of these cultures hold, whether that be in regards to slavery or civil rights struggles. I think that we often like to pick and choose when we want to acknowledge diversity. And I think that in a state that's trying to be so progressive and in a time where we are given the chance to spend this much money on something that's going to be impactful for generations, it's important that we do open a dialogue that has a discussion on what does it mean to learn a history that's not your own, and how does that affect you psychologically? How does that affect you mentally? But also, how does that affect your ability to do well in school? I think that if we are to focus on the funding, we should focus definitely on strategy 7, because this, I think, focuses the most on opening up a transparent conversation between students and teacher on what socio-emotional health actually looks like for each student individually as well. I think that my struggle is not the same as the struggle of Brianna or Estrella or Stephanie or Yasmin or Tamiko. And I think that because of that, it's important that teachers also acknowledge that and that we're able to be brave enough to kind of brace that conversation on a larger scale. I also think that we need to be focusing on things like financial literacy and extending education to courses like that to support students that don't come from the best backgrounds to have those resources. Whether we want to admit that as well, I think that a lot of the issues that we we see in regards to resources and students' ability to be financially literate by the time they graduate high school, because we are supposed to be college and career ready, not just ready to be a worker of a system. Part of that is that there are disproportionate resources given out to students of color. And I think that having classes on financial literacy that also prepare students and create the awareness between the fact that some students don't come from the same background that you do, and that you may have all these resources, for example, in regards to SAT tutoring, things like that. Part of why we see disproportionate rates of essentially like success in regards to higher education, it's because of the resources that we are given. So I think that if we're to really try to make a change in regards to that, we need to be willing to put one of the most impactful resources that we have, which is money, because a lot of our education is really linked to kind of the capitalist system that we live in. So I think that we should use that to hold ourselves accountable to provide these resources to all students on an equitable level. And this starts by seeing that in the classroom, but also providing diverse resources and talking to students one-on-one about what they need personally. So like I said, I think that Strategy 7 would definitely be a great way to implement this into our schools, but also to start bridging that gap and holding that dialogue in our society.
Can we get a mic drop, because my mind is just like blown right now. So thank you so much, Nicole. Again, it is so important to pay special attention to the needs of students of color who are so often silenced and underrepresented, and just address the need, like you said, Nicole, for transparency, accountability, and accuracy in the content that we're teaching our students, when it comes to these diverse communities of students in California, especially. So thank you so much for just like that nugget of gold wisdom. So next up, let's hear from Tomiko about your views on the money question.
If I were to have this money, I would put this into classes, just like Nicole was talking about. I think that ethnic studies classes would be very beneficial because it dismantles the Eurocentric view of history that we have been taught. And I would also agree with her on the fact that we need to have financial responsibility classes and college prep classes, which goes into strategy 6 with the additional academic service for students. And I would also say that we need more mental health resources for students. The National Institute of Mental Health said that as of 2018, the second leading cause of death for Black youth has been suicide. And this affects me because Black youth is me. Black youth is my cousins. Black youth is my family. So I think that strategy 3 can definitely deal with a great way to implement free therapy for students and free counseling for students. The money should also go into renovating school campuses and modernizing / updating textbooks and equipment for lower income schools. It should also go into implicit bias training. Strategy 7 holds an opportunity for educational training, and many of the students of color at my school have faced teachers who have been insensitive to issues that deal with people of color because they don't have the correct training and they don't know how to properly approach these issues. And educational training and implicit bias training would be able to teach staff how to be a better resource for students and make them feel comfortable in their classroom regardless of their identity. Lastly, funding extracurriculars and after-school programs such as the arts, STEM programs, and leadership programs for students would also help furthering their education, which goes into strategy 3 with funding before and after school programs.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tomiko, for bringing up those great points. Again, tying back into the theme about mental health, equity, all of these themes I hope you all are picking up on are really important, especially to our young panelists today. So next up, let's hear from Yasmin about her views on how the funds should be spent to help those most in need.
So because many students have academically fallen behind in the past year, I think it is of high importance to provide support towards minority disadvantaged groups. So I came up with two priorities that came in mind for me. So like Estrella really emphasized, English learner families, they should be provided with bilingual tutors who can not only assist the students, but also the caregivers with some type of education on technology. And this would help better improve the effectiveness of communication between them and the teachers. And then my second priority, so in the past year, there has been a surge of hate and discrimination towards people of color, and I think that a lot of students have taken note of this. So I don't think it should just go unaddressed. And I also think their mental health has been affected. So I think that schools should somehow provide a safe space for expression of issues like systemic barriers and the lack of representation in the media industry, which is also an important factor within this topic.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for helping us see that, again, historically disadvantaged minority groups are in need of extra support as we transition back to in-person school. Next up, I want to hear from Stephanie, who also feels passionate about the effects the pandemic has had on physical well-being and motivation.
Hello. I wanted to kind of browse over some topics, but the first one was mental health. Because we have been staying inside, a lot of students or people have gained weight, and unfortunately and sadly, it's led to some people getting eating disorders or some even getting anxiety. And I feel like some things that could probably help with this is therapy and learning about eating properly, like it was earlier mentioned by Estrella. And this is because in communities like mine, the closest stores are usually liquor stores or fast food restaurants. So it would be very helpful for people to learn more about healthy eating. And with the therapist, like it was earlier mentioned by Brianna, it would be more helpful for people in my community to destigmatize it, because it's seen as a bad thing in my community, or it's seen like as crazy to have therapy or something like that, especially to our families because of my cultural background. But I feel like it should be taught to both parents and students that it's not bad and it's actually good for you and can help you. With at their school, I feel like more health and probably like funner clubs so students can have, so they could look something to look forward to when they go to school, or whether that's after or before school. And this could be something like art, dance, gaming, cooking, or like Estrella mentioned earlier, gardening. And my last point is to help students. A lot of students tend to learn differently, and with online learning, it's become very difficult for them to get back on track. Like I mentioned earlier, it's become very unmotivating. And to help the students, I feel like there should be some type of adjustment where every student's way of learning can be adjusted to the school's curriculum. Also, helping students with financial classes, and because in this pandemic, there has been a lot of financial issues. So students can learn more about how to handle these financial issues in the future, both for their own futures and any other issue that can occur. And some students don't log into class at all, like I mentioned earlier. So we could probably also identify more of these issues and to try to get these students back on track.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Again, great points on a variety of different topics with mental health, physical well-being, financial literacy. There are just a lot of needs that really do need to be met. And so finally, I would like us to close out the panel today with Brianna, who will bring us home with the issue of equity and inclusion.
Thank you, Almentina. Honestly, I feel that this funding should, in its simplest forms, go to inclusion. Like Nicole and Tamiko said about reconstructing Eurocentric curriculums, I believe that there should be more ethnic studies classes implemented. Especially with today being Cinco de Mayo, it's extremely fitting because the only time that I've seen myself represented is in coloring activities in classrooms. So I think by expanding classes that, go against, I guess, whitewashed history and promoting more, figures that we can look up to, like Nicole said, I think that would be incredibly beneficial and lead to more success among students. I also believe that realistic sexual education classes and courses among that teach LGBTQ sexual encounters and just going more in depth about the different things and, realistic education that will help students and, promote better sexual well-being. I also think that, like Marshall High School does in my area, is have wellness centers that address the issues of students, and it's run by students. So I think by, gravitating more towards high school students, middle school students, and I mean, just having different programs among that to build the ways and expand students, mental awareness as a whole, I think that would be incredible. And referring to priority number 7, I think by investing in training for faculty and teachers would be incredible as well. Because I mean, who wouldn't want to promote student success and just want to help, students, achieve what they want to achieve rather than, failure and going into a place of, well, this kid is hopeless, why should we help them if they don't want to try? So I think that by reinvesting in student success, that would be incredible. And, as I say all these programs, I think the most important thing is to be equitable with everything. I think by distributing the funds equitably, I think that would just create a more successful place. I said that word a lot, but successful place. Wellness centers, the arts, STEM programs, and it not just being addressed to sports, because I know that's a very big issue within schools, is that heavy funding is given to sports. And as long, that's great. However, more funding needs to be distributed to the arts and STEM programs. So I just think, inclusion is equal to success, and that's something that we need to apply to schools. Thank you.
Wow. First of all, let me just say those responses blew me away, things that usually I don't even think about. So thank you so much for all those perspectives. Thank you, Brianna, for your discussion about inclusivity and diverse coursework, and really for all of you students for talking about that firsthand experience to help inform us on how that money can be used to help each and every student. There was really some amazing discussion about the importance of normalizing counseling, reconstructing Eurocentric curriculum, increasing resources in the arts, and awareness for financial literacy and health education, just to name a few. Even talking about those just kind of surprises me. So thank you guys for bringing up those really important concepts. These students from across California show us that these areas of support are important throughout the state. And I appreciate all of your input on showing us how to make change for tomorrow's future. I'll now go ahead and pass it on to Sesser to talk about our next segment.
Wow. Woo. That was quite the journey. All of you students killed it. You're amazing. And I'm sure if everyone could yell, scream, cheer for you right now, if we were in a room, everybody would be on their feet, just going wild and just so impressed. And I see a lot of joy, smiles, love in the chat boxes lighting up right now. And I just want you to know that, personally, I'm like the proud auntie right now, because we've worked together in the cohort, and you all are just such amazing young people. So thank you again for your courage and your bravery to speak your truth, even around some very sensitive, issues and topics that are close to your hearts, and just to share your wisdom with us. We need to learn from you. It's not about us. It's actually about you and what you need. So we are going to take this opportunity. I'm sure that the adults in the background are like, wait, we have questions. We need to know things. Even though they just dropped a ton of knowledge. These are some of the most amazing young people I've ever met. And I think it just reminds me, and probably the rest of us, we need to spend more time with young people. If you're meeting with other adults, that you need to pause, get curious, and engage in an equity pause, and who's missing from the table. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a chance to reflect. We're going to give you about 3 or 4 minutes, all of the adults in this space, the educators. You're going to get 3 or 4 minutes to just take out a pen, piece of paper. We're going to go old school, low tech, even though you're on Zoom score. Pull out a piece of paper and just engage in some journal reflection, and take a moment to capture what insights are coming up for you. Maybe you have questions. What we are coming to do is, our young people are not sure we're going to have a ton of time to answer a lot of questions, but if you do have questions, you can drop them in the chat. We're into breakout groups after you reflect, small groups of 4. You're going to have 12 to 15 minutes to connect with their colleagues and peers, just to process what we call light bulb moments or aha moments, things that are insights after hearing these amazing student voices, or also questions that you really want to explore deeper. So I'm going to stop talking, give you time to silently reflect. We're going to play, the DJ is going to put some jams on for you to reflect in the background, and just get to journaling. All right.
Shout out to Jen Diedrich over here. You brought an illustrious guest. It made the day. Sorry, young people. There were other young people here, your child on the space. So thank you for being the model here, opening up your camera, but also opening up your home and your family to us, which we're probably not worthy of, but thank you for being generous with that act.
If you're just joining us, we're taking a moment to do some reflection on what we've heard from the young people. So maybe you have some questions or insights around the ELO plan, the strategies and priorities. Welcome, Irma. I'm going to put you on mute. Yes, and so if you could just take a moment to journal and come up with questions or insights. We'll see you in a few. One more minute. All right, Julie Grohl, if you can place us into small groups. I looked at the time wrong, so apparently you only have 10 minutes. And then we'll bring you back and with some final thoughts from the young people in this space. So in your groups, decide who one person will go first, and then pass the mic to the next person. Listen and activate your deep listening skills, listen without interrupting. And then once everyone has shared, you can engage in dialogue, and then we'll bring you back. If you do have any questions for the students, please place them in before we go. We're going to take a look at them while you are in breakout groups. So we'll see you in 10. Enjoy.
And it might help too, when you go into the group, maybe the first thing before you start sharing is maybe introduce yourself and just kind of a basic, but just introduce yourself to the person in there. And it could just be as simple as what stuck out from the conversation.
We'll see you in 10.
Do I go to room 1 now? That's the big question.
I see I'm not the only one dancing in my chair here.
Everyone's a winner, baby.
Everyone's a winner, baby. You got it.
I want to ask the facilitators if there will be a playlist released to all participants from the music that we've heard today.
Oh my God, you're asking very personal questions.
Every single one. I need someone to share the playlist.
Yeah, I got it for you right here. It's a collaborative
playlist, because every time I go back to a room, I'm like, that's my jam.
JJ, you have the event music director with you here, Mr. Diego Arancibia. So you're in the right place.
I'm blushing and I'm kind of fangirling out right now. I was fangirling out on these panelists too, though. I was like, I don't know what to ask them. I'm a little scared.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. So we're going to go ahead and we hope you had a great connection with each of the people in your breakout groups. One of our best practices is to share love and acknowledgement in the chat. So if you want to give any love or acknowledgement to your peer group members in your breakout group, you can do that. We're going to go ahead and highlight our young people one more time for closing remarks. And I'm going to pass the mic to Wes.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Everybody else. Sorry, I need to highlight just a few more people. My apologies.
No worries. Thank you, everybody. I hope you guys had some really fruitful discussions in those rooms. I know we talked about a lot today. Feel free, just like Sesser said, to drop any insight or anything that you'd like to say to the students in the chat while we continue our discussions. And while these students had a chance to reflect, I think that we should give them a chance just for some closing remarks. So I'm going to kind of leave the floor open and ask anybody if they have any follow-ups or closing remarks. So let's go ahead and start off with Nicole.
Yeah, first I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us as the youth into this space. I know that doesn't often happen, at least right now, and that's part of why we're here. But yeah, in regards to just the work that we're trying to do now in regards to the future and seeing sustainable progression, I think it's really important to remember that we need to become comfortable in leaning into our past and some of what may not be so comfortable to talk about in regards to the inequity that we see in our classrooms and how that also translates outside of our classrooms as well. So just to be comfortable in that, and also I commend you as teachers for opening yourselves up to this dialogue as well, because I know that also takes bravery and accountability as well. So I hope that we inspired you in some way today to engage in this discussion, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for that. I'll go ahead and open it up to Brianna if she has anything to say.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you first and foremost to all the wonderful, amazing panelists. I think you guys all did an incredible job. Thank you to our moderators as well, Amatina and Wesley, who also had incredible and funny little segments in between, which I enjoyed. And I guess thank you to everybody who welcomed me and my other panelists into the space. I know, I'm a queer woman, Latina woman, like a person, and it's not every day where you get offered to be in a space like this. And I'm so incredibly grateful for the privilege that I've been given. And I'm just so inspired by everybody. And I know, like, as being on this panel, I doesn't degrade from the fact that I'm taking everything that I have heard with me, and that I'm so inspired by everyone here today. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brianna, and thank you for all that appreciation. I'll go ahead and see if Straya has anything to say.
Thank you so much, Wesley. I just also wanted to say thank you to everybody who was here on the panel, as well as all of the administrators and teachers and everybody who was a part of the Zoom meeting, because it really does make me feel like my voice matters and my opinions are being heard. With all the comments in the chat, like, that genuinely makes me feel confident that like what we're saying is being heard. And with that being said, I just want to drive home one point that was brought up in the meeting, was to start destigmatizing a lot of concepts such as like our history and mental health, as well as like my point of nutrition, because I know that in my culture, eating healthy is considered like a privileged thing, and it's whitewashed, where like veganism and being vegetarian is a privilege, which it is, because a lot of foods are pricey in grocery stores and that food deserts exist. So I think creating spaces and encouraging students to learn and grow their mindset is also going to be really helpful for all of us. So just once again, thank you all for everybody listening to all of our opinions.
Thank you so much, Estrella, for those final points. Tamiko, do you have any final remarks?
Yes, thank you everybody for listening to us. And I just realized that this is an entire panel of young women of color, which are students, and I feel like that's just super cool to have been a part of this panel and to have witnessed everybody's opinions and marginalized identities. And I think that it's really cool that we were all able to express what we want to have done with this money. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for everybody watching who have motivated us to keep going.
Thank you, Tamika. I love seeing the representation as well. Also, moving on to Stephanie, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today and kind of give our stories. I do hope that you leave with very open minds when it comes to making these decisions. And I do want to apologize for not being able to have my camera on. I have had some internet issues, but again, I just wanted to say thank you.
All good, Stephanie. Thank you so much, and thank you for those reminders. And lastly, last but not least, Yasmin, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you as well. I really hope you guys take the things we've mentioned into consideration. I do think there's been, like, throughout this year, this pandemic, it highlighted a lot of inequity, and I hope we really brought it to light and you guys could have some type of strong influence towards it. So yeah, that's my input, and thank you for listening.
Wonderful. I just love the gratitude going around, gratitude from our audience, gratitude from our panelists. I want to take some time to express some of my gratitude as well, especially to the audience, those of you who attended our amazing youth panel today. I just want to say, like, thank goodness this was recorded, because there was some seriously amazing and insightful responses from all of our panelists today. I also want to say another thank you to my co-moderator, Wesley, my mentor and growth coach, Mr. Wellington Smith, our amazing ASAP team with Julie Sesser, Julie Grohl, Diego Arancibia, and just everyone in this who's, helping us hold space today for this incredible panel.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for all the gratitude for the sounds. Thank you guys so much.
Well, Metcha clap, y'all. Come on, man. I didn't pay my dues, but I did the Metcha clap. Come on, y'all.
Yes,
I'll make sure I pay that.
love.
I'll put money into the scholarship.
Well, thank you guys so much. I want to thank each panelist individually just to recognize all their hard work and dedication. We really couldn't have done this without them and all their insight and perspectives. So feel free to leave some love in the chat, some comments, some reactions while I say their names. So thank you so much to Brianna Garcia, who's representing us from Los Angeles.
Woo, the crowd goes wild.
Next, I would love to say thank you to Estrella Ortega, here from Sacramento. Thank you so much. Next, I'd love to move on to our third person, Tamiko Young. Thank you so much, from Los Angeles. Yeah. Next, I'd like to say thank you to Nicole Crawford, also from Sacramento. Yes, I can see everybody cheering. Thank you guys. Next, I would love to move on to Stephanie Jaramillo. Thank you so much for being here today, from Los Angeles. And last but very not least, thank you so much, Yasmin Dominguez from Riverdale. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So lastly, thank you all for being here, for listening to our amazing bold leaders. They have so much potential, and I'll pass it off to Sesser for some closing.
Please just make sure to comment in the evaluation about what you appreciated about this session, what you love to see. We were one of the only student-centered panels in this whole convening, and so I'm excited and proud of us contributing to this coming together around thinking differently about how we do things. That normal never worked for everyone. So we have to build together. We have to build forward together, right? Build better together, as the superintendent spoke about this morning. We hope you'll join us for our closing session of the convening back in the main space. We hope you had a great time with us. I know that this is the most energetic I felt at 2:10 in the afternoon on a Zoom call. So have a wonderful afternoon. Make sure to fill out those evaluations and leave lots of love for these young people in the chat. They worked really hard for y'all. Take care, everyone.
And today, that little piece of land under the Coronado Bridge is known to everybody as Chicano Park.
That's right. Cinco de Mayo, y'all, out of the Puebla. Listening to a mentor of mine, Chunky Sanchez, passed away. Rest in peace.